This is chapter 3, verses 69 to 71. And their English translation is, O you who believe, be not like those who maligned Moses, but Allah cleared him of what they said, and he was worthy of regard with Allah. O you who believe, keep your duty to Allah and speak straight words. He will put your deeds into a right state for you, and He will forgive you your sins. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger, he indeed achieves a mighty success. I thought of talking about the lesson from these verses, particularly verse 70. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. O you who believe, keep your duty to Allah and speak straight words. The first thing I want to point out to you is this, that in this verse, God has made it man's duty to speak straight words. The two things that a man has to do are linked. Keep your duty. How? By speaking straight words. And when we look at these verses or any verse of the Holy Quran, we find that there are moral, social, and spiritual lessons in its words for us. Sometimes, most of the time, all that we want to do is simply to quickly recite the Arabic of the Holy Quran, perhaps not even knowing what it means, and then saying, we have done some good deed. Yes, it is good to recite the Holy Quran, but it's much better not just to recite it, but to understand it, and then even better than that is to actually act upon it. There are many things, many verses in the Holy Quran where God says, do your duty to Allah. How? This is how. In a social context, this lesson, this command, this teaching is very, very important. Because what we find is that when one person goes to another and says, I'm going to do whatever it is, his friend doesn't want to offend him by telling him that this is the wrong thing to do. He will simply agree with him or use roundabout ways to perhaps try and disagree. See, Holy Prophet himself, when we say that look at the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he himself said, help your brother when he embarks on doing a good deed, which is fine. If someone is trying to do something good, you should help. But then he went on to say, help your brother when he tries to do something wrong. And the companions of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were puzzled by this. They said, "O Prophet of Allah, how can we help someone when he is going to do something wrong?" And he said, by giving him good advice, by bringing him back to the right path, by explaining to him what he is doing is wrong. It doesn't mean to say you have to be rude and offensive, because in another place in the Holy Quran it says that you should preach to people, you should guide people nicely, in a nice way, because that is going to have a better effect on someone than if you're simply rude to them. And if you use words which have double meanings or which are not clear, because on the one hand you want to stop your brother, but on the other hand you don't want to offend him either, and you think you're being very clever, then that is against this injunction of the Holy Quran. Because the man goes away thinking you've agreed with him. And this is a problem that arises over and over again, particularly where family and friends are concerned, that we do not talk and give people the correct advice. We say to them things that they want to hear because we don't want to upset them. And this week we've had two incidents. In the United Kingdom, there were some Muslims who planned attacks on various places in England. They were devout in the sense that they would go to mosque regularly. And they went to the mosques and they put their ideas, they shared their ideas with the people who were there, other people who were attending in the management and so on. The sad thing is, from what we heard on the news and so on yesterday, that rather than saying to these people that this is wrong, this is un-Islamic, you should not be behaving in this way, planning to kill innocent people, men, women and children, is not a service to Islam. All these that these people were worried about is that there shouldn't be an investigation into their own mosque by the security services or the police or whatever. And they just sort of turned them away. They didn't say to them what you're saying is wrong. They didn't say to them what you're saying is un-Islamic. They didn't say to them that what you're going to do, if it succeeds, would not be a service to Islam. In fact, it will bring Islam into disrepute. People will say, look, these people, they came from overseas, or their parents came from overseas, and we welcomed them, and we gave them jobs, and we gave them free National Health Service facilities, and we gave their children free education, even though their parents may not have worked enough or paid enough income tax or national insurance to deserve these things. We still did these favors for these people. And how have they repaid us? As soon as they can, they've gone out and they've blown up whatever it is, and they've killed men, women and children. Is this how Muslims return a favor? Would this have been service to Islam or disservice to Islam? And if you read the history, one of the objections that is raised again and again and again is about this kind of behavior by Muslims. There is a verse of the Holy Quran which says, if someone does you a favor, return it with a favor. So when this nation and these people are doing you all these favors, if you go and start blowing up their buildings and their buses and their trains, are you not violating this verse of the Holy Quran? Apart from many others. This is what the people who ran those mosques should have been saying to these young men. This is un-Islamic. This is a disservice to Islam. Not just go away and talk about these things somewhere else. This is what the Quran says. Kulu qalan sadida. Speak the straight word. Tell them directly, this is the wrong thing to do. We also had bombings in the United States, in Boston. And every right-thinking person should condemn the killing of innocent people. No religion, no political system, no nation can justify killing and maiming spectators at a sporting event who probably have nothing to do with any political disagreement or whatever that these people have. But the difficulty is this. However much we say these things, and it was really nice to see Imam Khomeini of Iran condemning this attack unreservedly. But then, as he pointed out, violence begets violence. If you kill someone's husband, if you kill someone's father, they're going to remember that. And justified or unjustified, they will try and take revenge. It wouldn't matter who dies in those revenge attacks, as long as they belong to the nation that this person thinks is guilty of killing their loved ones. And we saw this. You've seen this in drone attacks, which have killed tens of thousands of people, innocent women and children. Wedding parties where people were celebrating their son and daughter getting married, they have been bombed. You cannot clap with one hand. People, if you subject them to this kind of tyranny and terror, they will react. And they will react in the same way. And I can stand here and say to you, it is un-Islamic to have indiscriminate bombing. And people will simply say, well, they're doing it, so why shouldn't we? We'll answer to God ourselves when the time comes. So all of us, those who perpetrate this violence, those who support this violence, we should all think these actions are prolonging the killing of innocent men, women and children. It is not stopping it. It is not making it less.